You first introduced your wildfire suppression legislation back in 2016. Tell us about the legislation and the idea behind it.
A long time ago, back in 2016, I was approached by our local fire department in Asotin County about a problem with delays that are caused by going through the state process in order to deploy aircraft for his fire agency. So we developed a policy that addressed the delay by creating an individual fund dedicated to local wildfire districts that want to go ahead and fly aviation assets or that already use aviation assets in the regular course of their day. So the question is that how do they make the funding in local rural fire districts be sustainable throughout a fire season and still be able to fly those aircraft when needed on a wildfire outbreak?
You've introduced this legislation in one form or another year after year for the past 7 years. It seems like common sense legislation. What's held us back?
Yes, it is common sense, but the agencies themselves have entrenched programs and couldn't see their way to understand that our local fire districts are the front line of attack for wildfire response, and that they have the capacity to put out a lot of small wildfires before they're even noticed. And so that piece of it is a piece that was really hard to contemplate when you have two major agencies that are tasked with funding and expertise in fighting large wildfires and understanding that we could prevent a lot of the wildfires from really getting large.
There's been a change this year, and it appears your measure, House Bill 1498, may actually advance.
It may. So in the history of the bill, we've had the bill originally written for the Department of Natural Resources to operate this program, and that did not work. So we moved it over to the State Fire Marshal's office. That did not work. So we this time moved it to the Washington Conservation Commission, and they are used to running grants programs to local communities for conservation purposes. Clearly, this is a conservation issue. It's an issue that allows us to preserve a lot of our timberlands and rangelands if we get on these fires early. So the way the bill works is that we put a fund together, and a board would then be from the local fire districts, representatives from both east side and west side of the Cascades, and we form a way to pre-approve the districts participating in the fund. Then they are free to fly aviation assets as needed and then submit the invoices to be refunded for the cost of those flights. It will run $3,000 to $5,000 an incident, but that $3,000 to $5,000 can quickly drain a local fire department of their resources. And so we go ahead and backfill that cost from the state through this assurance fund, and that allows the tool with which the front line can be effective defense against large and catastrophic wildfires. Due to negotiations, DNR would like to take over the program, and we're still in negotiations to see if we can preserve the local aspects and the freedom of local fire districts to be able to use the aviation resources that they already deploy regularly in conjunction with preparation for mobilization or not having to use mobilization. So it's one more tool in our box to prevent catastrophe from happening in our very arid regions of eastern Washington.
Where can people find more information about this legislation?
They can reach out to me through my website, representativemarydye.com, and I really do want to hear from you regarding this piece of legislation.